All right, let's go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Juan Espinosa, Director of Activities here at the UCLA School of Nursing. Thank you for joining us today for this alumni panel. We have four great, amazing of our School of Nursing alumni joining us today, who will share their wisdom and their experience with us. I'll go ahead and start introducing them. I know that we have in the chat in the Zoom room, Dr. Michelle Panlilio. And as for her brief, hi, how's it going? Thank you for joining us. Dr. Michelle Panilio is the National Lead Dementia Care Specialist in the UCLA Alzheimer's and Dementia Care Program. She has been a DCS since 2013 and graduated with a bachelor's degree in nursing from Mount St. Mary's College and completed her master's and doctoral degrees from UCLA. Prior to joining the ADC program, Dr. Panilio worked in internal medicine, cardiology, dermatology, and clinical research trials for Alzheimer's disease. Dr. Panilio, would you like to say a few words? Want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me here. Yeah, my name is Michelle Panlilio. I'm currently here in my office in Santa Monica, UCLA, working as a full-time dementia care specialist. I can speak. Juan, how much time do I have? A couple minutes? Yeah?
Awesome. Yes, we're good.
Okay.
All right.
No, let me know how much time I have so that I can do a brief introduction on myself, or is right now a good time?
Right now it's a good time if you want to go ahead.
Okay, just real quick, I'm a dementia care specialist, so I still see patients at UCLA twice a week. And then the larger part of my role as the national lead is that I help disseminate the program. So currently, we are in about, gosh, let's see, I think 22 different organizations. The ADC program, which started out at UCLA, is the very first site nationwide. And so since that time, since its inception 12 years ago, we've now been able to disseminate to 22 different organizations. And so that's a majority of my role. That's me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Dr. Panelio. That was great. And also we have in the room here with us in person, Dr. Donna Krog. She has been working on nursing research, and she also used to be a travel nurse. For those of you interested in learning more about what it's like to be a travel nurse and about that experience. So Dr. Donna Krog is a double Bruin Nurse Alumni class of 2020. She obtained her MSN in 2017 and her PhD in 2020, both from UCLA. She's the CEO of Smart Forward, and prior to the COVID crisis, she was a travel nurse. As the CEO for a healthcare startup with UC Noise Grant, she is a co-investigator in CCRN. Dr. Krog, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. I just want to thank everyone for coming and spending their time here to hear about what it was like for us and what we're doing now, and how UCLA helped us form great nurses that we are. Yeah, I work with the elderly. I'm working with Dr. Adi Nyamathi at UCI. I'm a co-investigator in my company. I had brought an idea to her about using humanoids and care companion robots about 3 years ago, after I saw firsthand what happened to the elderly when they were in nursing homes, and we could have used a lot of telehealth and care companion robots and humanoids to keep them in their homes safely. And so we are in the research and development stages of using OpenAI, trying to change policy so that we can use the recordings of the dementia patients. We're working on severe dementia patients. We're trying to learn how to mitigate agitation by teaching the care companion robots and the humanoids how to notice the nonverbal cues of the severe dementia patients and how to de-escalate those, and how to learn interventions to keep them living an excellent quality of health at their end of their life care. Because we noticed in Switzerland that they are developing communities that have similar to a fenced neighborhood, so that severe dementia patients can walk around and go into banks and grocery stores and have actors and pretend like they're actually living a quality life, but they're actually just participating in this development. And we wanted to bring something here or we could do something similar where they feel safe in their homes. And we hope that AI can be that transition for them to stay in their homes as long as possible.
Awesome. Wonderful. Thank you for that. And then do we have Kylie Blaines Rhonda? Are you here, Kylie, with us? I don't see you in the Zoom, unless she might join us a little later. I know that our other panelist, Claudia Rodriguez, she's also going to join a little later. So we're going to go ahead and get started with a round of questions for both Dr. Krog and Dr. Panlilio. We're going to go ahead and start it with the room. For the first question, just tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, where you grew up, your education, and about your current position. I know that you kind of did that already, but you want to just elaborate a little more on that? Dr. Krog?
So let me turn this on. So I was I'm a first, well, both of us, I was first generation graduate. Yes. My mother had a 7th grade education and my mom was a single parent. And when my stepfather was ill, he was given 30 days to live. And the nurses at Orlando Regional Medical Center, where MD Anderson is and Scottish Rite Children's Hospital in Orlando was, diagnosed him. He had 30 days with interstitial fibrosis. I just love the nurses. My father died 30 days later in hospice at home, and it was the most beautiful. He was a rocket scientist, and so he didn't believe in a faith. And the nurses gave him the Lord's Prayer blanket. It wasn't a faith-based hospital, but they just loved him and they were endearing, and the hospice nurses. And I said, Dad, I want to be a nurse. I want to have an impact on someone's life like these nurses did. And I went back to school and got my 2-year degree at a community college at the age of 47, and got my master's in 2017 and got my PhD in 2020. And now I'm hoping to help vulnerable populations. And I did my study on alcohol use disorder, post-bariatric surgery patients. At the time, there was a gap in the research. So it was looking at like 1 out of every 9 was having alcohol use disorder 1 year after surgery. And I wanted to understand that. I was a post-bariatric surgery patient. And now we found out that almost 25% are having alcohol use disorder, weight regain after 10 years. And I'm just really proud that I was able to find that there were people who had been verbally abused as children were higher at risk for alcohol use disorder, post-bariatric surgery patient, and people who were sexually abused as a child were at risk for suicide. So that was something I didn't expect to find. So I was very happy that I was able to work with Addie Nyamathi, who is my mentor. And when she became dean at UCI, I worked with Dr. Macy and Dr. Carpenter. They were my co-chairs. So I had 1 chair and then I had to transition to having 2 more chairs. So it was pretty exciting. I was very lucky to live with such great professors. So thank you for letting me share my story.
Thank you, Dr. Krog. That was great. Dr. Panlilio.
Yeah, I think so. Let me start off. I came here from the Philippines when I was 11 years old, and I came here with my family. I have 3 brothers. My parents at the time who are now both deceased. We came from a kind of middle class upbringing. And so when we came here, when we immigrated, just like a lot of immigrants, we didn't have a whole lot. And plus there's 4 kids. My parents were in their 50s when they came here. And so one thing that we knew, I mean, at least our parents knew, is that if we were able to get our education and work on growing ourselves, we could go anywhere. And that's something that I'm trying to instill with my own 2 daughters, is that no matter where they're coming from, no matter where they want to go, education is always going to help them get there. So I actually, I wanted to just say to the students, I wanted to say 2 things. Congratulations that you're here. One, that you are all nurses. Nurses are the best people in on the whole planet. We are the most trusted profession. And then 2, you're at UCLA. So congratulations. It's all about Bruins. Anyway, just wanted to put that out there. As far as my career, it's taken kind of an interesting turn. I graduated forever ago from my bachelor's, and I remember when I graduated, I would say things like, "Oh, I'll never go into geriatrics. I'll never go into hospice. I'll never go into research. That's boring, this and that." And each and every single time that I've told myself that, I have proven myself completely wrong. And so, in all of those things, as I grew into my career, I would push myself and I would say, you know what, you said this last year, you said you'd never go into research, and why don't you try it? And so I would. My career as an NP, I started off in internal medicine, inpatient as well as outpatient, and I did that for the first couple of years. And then after that, I decided to have my kids and I wanted to take kind of like a slower career path. So that's when I went into research. And now that my kids are a little bit older, I went back to UCLA. So I think all in all, I've been at UCLA for almost 20 years, in some way, shape, or form. I started out as a volunteer. I became a care partner, a nurse, a float, and then all the way up to right now, I report directly to the chief of geriatric medicine, and I'm working to expand our program nationally. So it's taken a very interesting turn for me.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And we have another one of our panelists who just joined in the call. Let me see. Can you hear us, Claudia? Let me see. You're muted. Let me see. Unmute. Oh,
There
there
we
you
go. Hi.
Hi. Let me.
How's it going, everyone? Bruins. Okay, cool.
Claudia Rodriguez Sen. Clara Rodriguez, MSN, RN, CNS, PHS, obtained her MSN in 2020 from the UCLA School of Nursing, and she currently works at Fountain Valley Regional Hospital, where she practices as a PICU CNS with pediatrics as her specialty in practice. Take it away, Claudia. Tell us more about yourself.
Well, first of all, I want to say hi to everybody in the room. Hi, so great to see you. I hope you're having a fabulous day. As my friend Juan mentioned, I am in pediatrics, which is why I'm maybe so happy, because that's just where happiness lives, in pediatrics. So please, 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 if I can invite you to come to the promised land, I would say come to us. Absolutely. And thank you to anybody who wants to work with adults. More power to you. That was never really my endeavor. Actually, no, I should clear it up. So back in 2004, I was living in San Francisco. I was having my first baby here in the States, and we had this fabulous L&D experience at Kaiser in San Francisco. And at the time, I was an environmental biologist, and I was like, if ever I do a second career, this is it. And so then we promptly moved to Alaska, at which time I looked for a second career because I was like, well, there's that. So anyways, I became a ADN nurse first at the University of Alaska in Anchorage. It was absolutely fantastic. And I thought I was going to be an L&D nurse until during rotations, this wonderful mom, just water broke all over my white nursing shoes. And I was like, I don't know about that much bodily fluid on me. So I said, forget it. And I switched up and I started working in the NICU, not as a nurse student, like a nursing student. They had this awesome milk lab. At the time, they were having all sorts of issues in like having a MRSA outbreak and things like that in the NICU. And they really wanted to start this really cool program where they would prep all the baby's foods in a sterile environment. And so they were looking for milk interns. And so I became a NICU milk intern, which was so huge. And it did two things. One, it it really settled in my heart that I wanted to stay with the younger group of the world, right? So pediatric South. And second, it also really cemented the fact that by getting a job in a hospital while you're in nursing school, it is almost it's amazing. It's almost like an automatic shoe-in, because then you just transfer departments versus having to apply as a person coming from the outside in. So in nursing school, while I know it's super crazy and I applaud you for doing it, if there's any way that you can kind of squeeze yourself into a spot at a hospital that you may be interested in, or maybe not, but just like any hospital experience is going to give you a little bit more of an in than not having anything at all. So that'd be my first thing that I'd want to kind of put out to you all, is that if you have the bandwidth, you have the support to be able to do that, even on like a per diem basis, which means like that's one shift every, like, so I also work as a bedside nurse at Kaiser still in pediatrics. I'm a per diem there, and I work, I have to do 8 shifts in a quarter. So it's a little over 2 shifts a month, but then that's it, right? But even that, as like a certified nursing assistant or a patient care tech, would be huge, 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 especially if that's like a system that you're thinking about wanting to practice in once you're done with nursing school. So that was my 2 takeaways from there. When I graduated nursing school, my sweetheart quickly told me, "You talk too much. Those babies are never going to talk back to you. You should really think about pediatrics as opposed to going into NICU." So I went into peds. I went into my new grad residency as a peds nurse, and then went in and out of both peds and critical care, so PICU, pediatric intensive care unit. And I've only been in peds my entire career, so it's been super, super awesome. Like I said, just because there's so many different areas that you can move, I think in nursing as a whole, but definitely as a pediatric world. And there's not so many of us that I feel like, there's this like huge competition everywhere to kind of get a really good spot. That being said, I was working at Children's Hospital in Los Angeles, amazing space, wonderful organization. This was after we moved back from Alaska. And I was having a lot of moments where I was like, well, if I was taking care of that patient, I would do this. Or at the time I was working on a hematology oncology floor, and I was like, I don't think that's the best process that we should do if we're doing X, Y, and Z. And so I kind of called myself onto the floor that said, well, if you have so many ideas, maybe you should do something about it. And UCLA took me in, and I went and did my MSN there. I'm trying to figure out how we're going to manage this next part, because my heart's a little broken right now with UCLA. It's not over yet, and we're nurses, and it's never over until we say it's over, kind of thing. So we'll see how it goes. But I was fortunate enough to be able to participate in the dual pediatric NP program and the pediatric clinical nurse specialist program. So I graduated with 2 MSNs, absolutely wonderful. And I came out of MSN, and was this huge push to go be an NP, and I was in pediatric primary care. Loved it, loved it, loved it, and found that I was still a hamster on the wheel, right? Like I didn't like my diagnoses and the way that I took care of patients. That was cool, that was great, but I had really no time to make change in a healthcare system that I feel is innately broken. And so I pulled out, and I was fortunate at that time to be offered the position here at Fountain Valley as a PICU clinical nurse specialist. And the thing with the clinical nurse specialist is that I love it. I can't even imagine doing anything else now with my career. As a clinical nurse specialist, I focus on 3 different spheres of influence. One is on the systems. So I'm looking at like helping develop clinical pathways for disease treatment and management. I'm looking at doing root cause analysis on like why we're seeing a certain type of medical error or good catch to happen. My other sphere is all nursing and interdisciplinary development. So I get to really think about what are the competencies and what are the ways that it's best to train our nurses and our interdisciplinary colleagues. So I have influence into that. So so I get to still do a mentorship program with my nurses and support them in their own professional growth. And then last but never least, I also have a sphere of influence in what's like being patient and family education. And so I get to look at, how do we educate our families and how do we educate our nurses to be able to really function and manage their care and their relationships with our patients and families. And then what does like our discharge look like in like our discharge process, and what is it that our families need in this particular space, right? And I'm working at a community hospital now. Fountain Valley Regional is tiny. It is part of Tenet Healthcare, but it is a tiny community hospital still, right? Especially when I compare it to like CHLA or Kaiser, that these are big, very, they're just different hospital systems. And I encourage you to think about maybe touching and trying to work in all these different spaces, because all of them are going to offer you a different way to look at nursing, a different way to see how things can be done, should be done, could be done. And so that's that perpetual learning, right? And so today, the reason I'm late and I'm so sorry is that we have an impromptu survey. So surveyors are in our hospital today, and I just came out of my interview with them and I was like, woo! So, but I wanted to see you all because you're so important. You're my next generation of amazing nursing leaders, and I can't wait to welcome you and support you in any way I can. So go Bruins. Thank you for being here. I don't know if I talked too much or not, but I'm super excited about the work I do, and I hope that you come into a space that welcomes you and embraces you and loves you as much as they should. Cool.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Claudia. That was great.
Sure.
For our next question, let's hopefully we can get through as many questions as possible in the second half. Let's start with Dr. Krog. How did the UCLA School of Nursing prepare you for your current career?
I think for me, UCLA, for as long as I've known, it's been the #1 public research university in the world. And when I was a PACU nurse here, in the old, Ronald Reagan wasn't here then, we used to do a lot of procedures in what we call the BCU, the basement care unit, which was our PACU. And at that point, this was the longest travel nurse job I had had. I started in PACU, and then I went to PTU, which is, doing all the IVs. And then when I came here to get my degree in PhD, I thought, let me go volunteer in the PACU. And I would weigh patients and I would get them a gown and I would help ease their restlessness and anxiety. And it'd be like 4:30 in the morning at the Ronald Reagan. And I did that from 2012 to 2014. And I also volunteered at the Department of Human Nutrition with Dr. Catherine Carpenter. And she knows a lot about bariatric. And so I got to work with her for like a year, and she would bring me in as like her little TA, even though I was just a volunteer. And then they both wrote me letters, and I applied in 2014 and got into the accelerated BSN to PhD. So I did this very accelerated classes, which were like sometimes 18 to 21 credits a quarter. And then in the summer we were off, and then it got so hard, I decided to live on campus, which was the best secret, you guys, to live in the grad dorms. It's so awesome. It was so cheap, and we had free buses to class, and there was just such a wonderful feeling about being here. So that's kind of where, the opportunities were for me. So now I go back to the PACU and say hi to everyone. And I love UCLA. I would love to work for them, but because I'm in research, I find that I have a better collegiate environment being able to have my own business, because I get to decide what I want to research and who I want to do it with. So I have like a team in Pakistan that does all of our IT. My husband is my CIO. He's He's a professor and artificial intelligence chair on the board at Pepperdine. So I get to have that part too. So I think IT was really big for me here because I was like, what? I used to work with Stephen and Scott all the time. I used to go to them and say, look, why doesn't this work? And Dr. Macy was was the CIO, is the Chief Information Officer for the School of Nursing. And he used to put these 4 or 5 massive screens up with Excel and teach me all these formulas. So when I graduated, I was so equipped with being able to get the significance, the p-value. And they didn't teach statistics here like normal. They gave you software and you worked with software. It was no longer using a calculator. And I was so ready once I started doing my own research to be able to calculate everything and be able to use the software. So UCLA prepared me all the way around. So I just go Bruins, love you guys, and hope one day I'll be able to lead some of the humanoids and care companion robots running through UCLA. So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Dr. Panlilio, let me just repeat the question. How did UCLA School of Nursing prepare you for your current career?
Very well. So very well in 2 words. I think being at UCLA just opened up so many possibilities, so many doors for me from the moment that I came in here as a volunteer. I also, with that said, I just want to say that I work for somebody who is he's a genius, Dr. Rubin. He is the department chief of geriatrics. And so I'm fortunate to be working with him because he's the type of person that if you come up with an idea and you have a plan, then he is going to support you through and through and make sure that you have the resources that you need to get whatever your objective is. I think going back to when I was a student, so I graduated with my master's back in 2005. I think if I had a comment on how UCLA prepared me, you have to apply yourself. And so although UCLA is going to open a lot of doors for you and, open up some opportunities for you that you might not be otherwise exposed to, you still have to apply for it yourself. And so by that, I mean, do something that is uncomfortable, meaning reach out to leadership. Have 3 jobs. I think I had 3 jobs when I was taking my master's. One of them was not even paid. It was an internship. And that ended up, opening so many doors for me. By the time I graduated with my master's at that time, I think I had 4 or 5 job offerings, all from opportunities that I had because I did my rotations with them. And so that opened a door. As far as when I finished my doctoral degree, I didn't go back to school, by the way, until 15 years plus after I had graduated with my master's. And the reason for that is because I still have little kids at home. And the reason that I went back for my doctoral degree is because I wanted to go out of UCLA, meaning the impact that I wanted to have was, I had been in my role at that time for nine something years. And so because there's a lot of family history for me with dementia, I knew that there was so much to be done, so much nationally outside of UCLA. Although, I love UCLA, I knew that I wanted to have a bigger impact. So when I went to school, it was one of those things where you don't really know what you don't know until you get into it. So when I was going for my DNP program, it taught me that it taught me how to speak. It taught me how to present. It taught me how to reach out to all the appropriate people. And it taught me how to run projects nationwide. And so, I think if you are trying to, reach a bigger audience, yes, UCLA is going to open so many doors for you. take advantage and make sure that you are applying yourself. And I think the last thing I'm going to say about that, as far as applying yourself and reaching out, don't be embarrassed or shy about reaching out to leadership. And so I have students, my former students, as well as, just random students who reach out to me, and they are interested in doing something. And those opportunities eventually will lead to other opportunities. And so reach out, don't be shy. The worst thing that they can tell you is no, right? But you need to apply yourself. If the worst thing that they can tell you is no, I don't have time for you right now, fine, move on. But if you think about it, that's really not a bad thing.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Panelio. Some great advice over there. How about Claudia? Same question. How did UCLA School of Nursing prepare you for your current career?
So I am, it's my first time. My MSN was my first degree at UCLA. And I think one of my biggest things, so when I was thinking about which program to do, one of the biggest things that really motivated me to go to UCLA was, one, the reputation. I can't echo enough how just the fact that you have UCLA behind you on your little name tag of like, this is where I graduated from, is just ridiculous, right? So that in and of itself is fantastic. Second, the master's programs, those professors really do everything that they can to get you preceptorships. And I don't know if you understand how difficult it is to find preceptors, but it is no joke. It is super, super hard. And so if you're in a program that doesn't allow for that, you're really at a disadvantage. And again, because it's UCLA, because of the notoriety that comes with being UCLA, it means that we always have preceptors for you. And you've got amazing preceptors. So as a pediatric NP, I was placed in spaces that were in and around my home. I live out here in Santa Ana. Come and visit me whenever you'd like. But they always work to try to get me something close to home, which is really cool. Too, when I was doing my CNS rotations, I worked at a local children's hospital out here in Orange County. And then I also got to go and participate at the Painted Turtle, where one of our CNS UCLA grads is the director of nursing, and she applies her CNS skills. Having a great time swimming and courses and flying and amazing things that we learned in class. And analysis to how to be able to look at our what was our goals and like measure.
Hey, Claudia, you're breaking up. Claudia, we can't hear you. Okay. Let me give you a few seconds, see if you can adjust your signal. We'll move on to the next question. And this one is a question from our students. How do you make yourself a competitive applicant as a new grad? Let's start with Dr. Krog.
Well, I know Sherry Munstein was really helpful in the HR department here at UCLA when I was here to get into new grad programs. So I felt like pretty much anyone who was here would just go to HR and they would get themselves prepared for whenever that quarter was that they were going to start it. So that to me was the number one thing about UCLA, is that they just ran such a great new grad program. And because you were a Bruin, it seemed as if they were open doors for all of us. So being that I was already a nurse, that was the only thing that I saw that was just very well, I think very well resourced to the team when I was here teaching as a TA and a RA. I would just express to them, you need to go down to HR, and HR is great. You literally at the time, not now, but now you go on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They have open job fair. You can ask any questions. Tuesdays, it's I think from 9 to 10, and Thursdays it's from I think 2 to 3. And you can literally ask all these HRs any direction for that. So that's my suggestion for the new grads.
Thank you, Dr. Krog. Dr. Panlilio, how do you make yourself a competitive applicant as a new grad?
I think that's a great question. And it's pretty, I guess my answers to that is pretty basic and not so basic. Basic meaning when you are going to job interviews, make sure that you're prepared. If you're going to interview for a large academic institution, prepare for it to be a whole day event. It wouldn't be unusual for you to interview with a panel, and sometimes those panel interviews can extend over half a day or sometimes even longer. So little things like make sure that you are getting rest the night before. Make sure that you have, a good meal so that it can carry you throughout your day. I think when you are, speaking of the process of interviewing, something that, can be a bit tedious, but you should do is to practice interviewing. So if you, starting with your resume, have your colleagues, your parents, your friends, take a look at your resume and kind of poke holes in it and make their recommendations of how it can be it can be improved. I mean, as far as going to interviews if you want to be competitive and you want to look for, for work and you're kind of opening up your avenues, I would recommend interviewing as much as you can, getting as much practice, because that during that process, you're going to learn a lot about yourself and you're going to learn a lot about what employers are going to be asking you. So, getting that time to practice how to answer those questions that they're going to ask, you'll find that it's something that's going to get easier and easier for you. I think too, so when you start going on interviews, and Juan, I apologize, I know I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but talking about the interview process. So, we all understand that you are looking for work. You want to look for a good job, you want to look for a happy job, good environment. And so they're going to be asking you a lot of questions. And believe me, because I've interviewed so many people, make sure that you have your own questions, because when you're looking for a job, it's not just a one-way street. It is a two-way street, meaning they're going to be asking you because they kind of want you to market yourself, but you also need to ask them. And you need to be, you need to have your questions prepared. Don't go into an interview just saying, no, I don't have any questions. No, you should have your own questions kind of lined up, and you should be asking these similar questions to each organization. And how your interviewer responds to you actually is going to tell you, is going to be very telling on how the organization is run and who you're going to be working for. So just keep in mind, I guess my last thing is just keep in mind that interviews is a two-way street. And so they're going to be interviewing you, but you also are very valuable. And so you need to ask your own questions and frankly, make sure that they're good enough for you.
Thank you for that. That's some great insight and advice. Moving on with another question from one of our students. How do you maintain a healthy work-life balance as a nursing professional? Dr. Krog.
Well, I mean, I think nurses in general are pretty healthy individuals, just because they know so much. I always encourage little groupings with the nurses that I work with. So we usually work out, 2-3 times a week together. We play pickleball. Sorry, it's probably in my age group, but and we hike. I live in Palos Verdes, so we do a lot of hiking with our dogs. Run them on the beach. We do a lot of couples. If you're married or have couples, I make sure that I plan, couple events with my husband and our friends as couples and enjoy life. And that really just keeps me, I just consider it like when I was a single parent, I used to say Friday nights were my thing to go out and be an adult. And I would dance every Friday night with the church group. And that just met my soul. That just filled my cup up, and I have so much to give. And that's the same way I feel. I have so much to give at work, and I create, a nice working environment with those that I work with. And you get to know each other in a more human-like way. And I love about UCLA is that when you work for them on the floor, they have these huddles. And I remember specifically where at one point they would say, I got in an argument with my husband this morning, I'm just having a bad day. And that kind of transparency in your environment, when you get to know and you go and do things with your colleagues, you start to open up this kind of transparent relationship, and everyone is more, I think they're just more supportive towards you. That's what I love about the millennials, and I love about this generation is that, everything isn't hidden behind closed doors. In my day that was, but to me, it's like being able to keep your cup full is by having good relationships in the work environment and also in your home environment too. My kids and I, they live far away, but I fly to go see them. Just came for Thanksgiving, and have lots of FaceTime on the phone, but keeping close ties with your family, whether it's your sisters or your grandparents, or going to visit your loved ones in other cities. So that's my idea of keeping myself healthy. Thank you for asking.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Dr. Panelio.
Juan, I think the question was, how do we, what
Oh,
are
yes, let
our
me
like,
get the question, sorry.
oh, okay.
How do you maintain a healthy work-life balance as a nurse?
That's a tough one. I think because of our profession, we are caretakers, we're caregivers by nature. And so we give a lot to ourselves, whether it's our patients, families, or even, sometimes our colleagues or whoever we are supervising. I think what's important about self-care is exactly that, right? Self. Nobody is going to do that for you. And so we can't expect our partners, our bosses, our work to take care of us. So you need to, just like you make that commitment to take care of other people, then you need to make that commitment to take care of yourself. Something that is relatively simple for me to do is to work out every day. So I work out every day, whether that's before work or after work. I lift weights, I do a lot of yoga, I run, I do the Peloton. And then I don't do social media. So if you're going to tell yourself, I'm tired because I'm overwhelmed at work, I'm stressed out with work, I'm stressed out with school, and then you get on your Facebook or whatever it is because you want to take care of yourself. Like, we all know that's not really taking care of yourself. So turn off the social media and actually do something physical that is going to be good for your mind and your body and your soul, whether that's like taking a walk, taking your dog for a walk, hanging out with friends, or going to work out. But just like you all do this every day for your patients, it's something that you're going to have to do for yourself if you want to just maintain, being a nurse and kind of lasting for as long as you want to.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Claudia, I see that we're back. So for this question is from our students, how do you maintain a healthy work-life balance as a nurse?
I think that learning to choose what you really want to do is going to be huge. We are usually like super yes and while I appreciate like that attitude of like, yeah, I can do it. Of course I can do it. Yeah, I can do it. Nurses, we move mountains all the time. And I think one of the biggest things that we need to take away is that we also have to learn to say no, right? We got to learn to be able to say, my passion is in this, and I'm going to concentrate in this for a minute, as opposed to like spreading yourself really thin, because it's super easy to get spread thin because you want to do this. And there's like that fear of FOMO, right? Like the fear of missing out, right? if I don't do this, then what? Da 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 da. Just give yourself time. It's better to undercommit and over deliver than overcommit and underdeliver, right? So yeah, think about, be mindful of the things that you say yes to. Make sure that they're things that feed your soul. As everyone else on the panel has said, you know, and you know this, we're in work that you know, we're givers, right? We give. And so find the things that give to you back, right? Be a social service, a social circle, an environmental space, whatever, right? Whatever makes you, helps you become whole, because there's a lot that goes that way, and we need to really be mindful about that. So yeah, obviously, you know, going for a walk, journaling, swimming, playing, laughing, oh my gosh, heaven forbid you be happy. I think all those things are for sure. But for me, my biggest advice to you is learn to say no and be passionate about the work that you do. And you can only do that if you've got time.
Thank you, Claudia. Some great wisdom right there. For our next question, also from our students, what advice do you have for students who are looking to go into your specialty? Dr. Krog.
Well, I'll talk about travel nursing since that seems to be pretty amazing. I started in 2003 as an RN, and I did 1 year at the hospital that my father was diagnosed, and I floated everywhere. I did my night shift on a step-down unit, and because I floated everywhere, I learned everything that I could because I had studied so hard for my test that I just had so much information. I just wanted to broaden it. And so I think that that helped me to give myself like a very long-term knowledge instead of just memorizing and everything's in the short term. And also the nurses at the time would say, why are you floating? You're not experienced there. But if the hospital floats you and you're just a float, not a flirt, sorry. I was flirted, most flirtatious in high school as a senior superlative. So maybe, I don't know where that came from. Anyways, but my point is that after that year, I almost quit nursing because the nurses beat me up so much in my time about floating, but it just gave me so much knowledge and so much experience. And I was so proud that I didn't listen. So sometimes just stand up for yourself. It's your education, it's your knowledge, it's your path. And then just as I was going to quit, I'd left the job. I was going to go back to what I was doing before. And somebody said, why don't you try going back and get your bachelor's and learn critical care ICU? They had a lady who had taught the ICU program, and she gave us, you know, our clinical rotation. They hired me in ICU. I got my 1 year experience, and then I just went off and traveled. And I've never, except for my company, I've never done anything but travel nursing. And I have worked PACU, ER, cath lab, ICU, CVICU. I mean, open hearts, heart transplants. I've learned ECMOs. I never used ECMOs until COVID. I did VVs. I was walking patients on ECMOs just a couple of weeks ago at Torrance Memorial doing CVICU. And, you know, you do travel nursing, you will learn so much. You will get so much experience, and you just keep building on yourself, and you learn from people who are with you on the floor and get to be friends with them and add them to your contact list and stay connected. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Dr. Panlilio, what advice do you have for students who are looking to go into your specialty?
Just do it. It seems really simple, but you know, just do it. Reach out to people in leadership. I think something that I've learned is that, you know, people in leadership might seem like they're so unreachable, and you know, you're thinking they're probably just going to delete your email or just completely ignore it, but that's actually completely not true. Those are the people that you should be reaching out to. And so if any of you are interested in going to geriatrics, just do it. Apply in our department. I always have a secret agenda when I have NP students with me, because there is no more GNP, right? There's a GNP. And so they come to me with all kinds of things that they want to do. And my secret agenda is always to get them into geriatrics and geriatrics alone. So just teachers, professors on the call, just be mindful of who you're sending over to me. So anyway, just do it. It'll work out.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Claudia.
So I love Dr. Panilio. That's awesome. Meanwhile, I'm on the other side saying, don't ever go into adulthood. It's just horrible. So how do you get into specialty for me? I think obviously having a passion for like wanting to, well, not even, because I feel like, so here's my beef with like nursing school. My beef with nursing school is that maternal child health is divided into one quarter maybe, and then you divide them up in between NICU, peds, and then OB labor, right? And it's just ridiculous. It's crazy because you're not going to get the awesome, amazing exposure that you can to understand why we are the promised land, right? Anyways, so if ever you want to come and shadow with me, please know you're always welcome. Know that if you are already working in a healthcare system, so in this particular case, I'm going to talk about Kaiser specifically, they also have like mentor programs. So like, let's say you're a CNA, let's say you're a bedside nurse, and you're like, man, I wonder what it'd be like to be a CNS. You can actually sign up, and then you have like a full mentor program that hooks you up with a CNS. I would also say join a professional organization. So if you're thinking about being an NP, if you're thinking about being a CNS, if you're thinking about going into PEDS, join one of the professional associations. And there's always mentorship processes, shadowing, all those fun things that'll allow you to go in there, stick your foot into the little pond and see if you like that, if you like the water in there or not. But kind of like what Dr. Panilio said, just jump in, have a good time. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You learn something, right? Either about yourself or the space that you're in. And so if you're going to go into nursing, you're going to go into lifelong learning anyway. So it's just, it's just what you're going to be doing. And as for traveling, I did travel as well and absolutely loved it. I can't wait till my kids are out of my house, so that I can continue to be like, let's go. So yes, travel, have fun. It's gonna be great.
Awesome. Thanks. And for our last questions, because we're nearing the end of time, what does it mean to you to be a Bruin nurse? And I'll give you a couple of seconds to just kind of think about that, and just, in a few words, tell us what that means to you. Yeah, Dr. Krog.
Yeah, so I didn't take leadership roles when I was in the program, but I was a favorite amongst the students. I was voted commencement speaker. I really sympathized with them on their tests. I worked really hard to give study reviews on my own time, but I often got asked to be there for the passing of the torch for the Florence Nightingale, which was started at Berkeley, and we still continue at that, as far as I know, yes. And to me, I just think of Florence Nightingale, and I think of research and how knowledgeable she was, how educated she was. And, I think of all that she did in vulnerable populations. And that is really where my heart lies, is vulnerable populations. I really feel strongly about, travel to third world countries. I've worked with Doctors Without Borders. I've done many mission trips, and I've really saw, people who, I work downtown, I work at Dignity Health in the PACU as well, with gunshot wounds and a lot of addiction, a lot of mental health. I just felt like for me, when we pass the torch and I see the wonderful seances that we have and the students love and care for how they feel about the Bruin name, it's just such a family to me. I'm telling you, I just love UCLA. And the one thing I must say to everyone is that please trust the process. I think we all got here because we are strong, independent people, and we have thoughts of our own, and we're leaders. And sometimes I felt like I really messed up here because I didn't listen more, because I kept questioning the process. And I wish that I could just say, trust the process. And I promise you, when you come out, you'll be like, I'm so happy that I listened to all those distinguished professors and that I was careful and not having my own agenda, because I just, I am who I am, and I forgot about that, and I fought things, and I said the word fair, and I really, really resent myself for that, because here I was in the rooms with all these amazing people. I mean, Addie Nyamathi was just voted at the 50th anniversary of the American Nursing Academy as a living legend. And I remember I was in her office and she said, I give you all these suggestions and you don't take them. So why are you here? I thought, oh my God, like that was very helpful. And then I remember another professor saying, a little bit of less narcissism would be really helpful. And I mean, these words are true. I'm sorry, but you get to UCLA because you are one amazing person. And in whatever arena that you live in or wherever you came from, I don't know how they pick us, but every year when I was a TA and RA, I used to just be like so amazed at whoever picks these people who get in this school, because you guys are the creme de la creme. So I hope that helped.
Thank you so much, Dr. Krog. Dr. Panlilio, what does it
I
mean
know
to
we're-
be a Bruin nurse?
I know we're kind of running out of time. What does it mean to be a Bruin nurse? This means that you are caring, you are outstanding, you are compassionate, you are kind. But most of all is service. Service as a nurse is deeply embedded in all of us. And so service to your patients, but also giving back to UCLA because, and you may not realize this right now, but it is opening, so many doors for you. And you might not realize that until you graduate, because I know you guys are knee deep in papers and tests and exams and all that. But you'll realize how many doors is going to open for you. So when you are like this big, nurse, and just make sure that you go back to UCLA and do what you can to give back is all. You might find that you have a blue and yellow running in your veins. So don't be surprised.
Awesome, wonderful. And last but not least, Claudia.
I just echo what both of my amazing panelists have said. Like, I think being a Bruin nurse, I was a nurse before I was a Bruin, right? And I always felt like I had this really big dedication to my patients and families. And then I went to UCLA and understood that my responsibility is so much bigger than that. And I don't want to scare you away, but it's just the level of just the standard of care and the standard of the education that we get at UCLA is so amazing that I feel that since I graduated from UCLA, everything I touch, I want to make sure is just top notch. I'm Mexican. I'm first generation born in the US, and I come from a very proud Mexican heritage, right? Everything I do has got to be on, like it's on, right? And I think graduating UCLA and being a Bruin nurse has added to my Mexicanismo, in that I'm like, let's go. And so, yeah, I think I'm even a bigger bear than I was before. So that's pretty awesome, but more than anything, I also feel like being a Bruin nurse means that I'm here to support you, right? We're one big family, and just know you're not alone, and know that we've been in your shoes before, and we really want to make sure that you're successful, and like I said, that you're supported and loved, because that's huge. That's huge, especially in our profession. So welcome to the fam.
I just want to add one thing. I had answered all of your questions that you guys had asked and put it in red ink. So if you want to get that, and then also I put my name and my number, and I encourage you to give it to anyone who might have questions or need some help or support. My email as well. Text me. I'm here for you guys. I'm an alumni. I'm there with you.
Woo, yeah. Give it up for our alumni, everybody. Thank you. I want to thank all three of you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. And for those of you who joined us online and in person, and for those of you here in the auditorium, we have pizza and cookies down the way. So we're going to make our time in there and to enjoy some light refreshments. And this is the end of our show. Thank you for joining us today. Have a good one.